That's part of the process. Growing to the point where you are no longer feeling humiliation because you made a mistake. Growing to the point where your mistake becomes material. Growing to the point where you realize it's very human to run out of things to say, and there's nothing wrong with me.
This is Arts Educators Save the World, where successful artists and their mentors talk about how arts education transformed their lives. Hey everybody, welcome to the first ever live recording of Arts Educators Save the World, a podcast where artists interview their mentors about the impact that arts education has had on both their lives. Wait, I need to start over. Welcome to the first live recording of Arts Educators Save the World. I forgot. I should take advantage of the fact that we are live and we are here, and we are so happy to be able to be in community with these artists and our folks who are participating in the Wisconsin Arts Integration Symposium. Welcome, everyone. Yes. If this is your first time with Arts Educators Save the World, you can feel free to go back in our feed, listen to the other episodes in season 2, listen to season 1. My normal co-host for Arts Educators Save the World is my producer, Alec Lev. But today I have a very special co-host, my co-director, my work husband, my research partner, the fabulous Dr. Yorel Lashley. Yorel, welcome to the podcast.
It's my pleasure to be here. Thank you.
Yes. So I'm going to invite Yorel to introduce our first guest, who is the artist that we've invited to join us today. So Yorel, take it away. Please introduce our artist guest of the day.
All right. So I'm pleased to introduce Sheikia Purple Norris. She is an amazing MC and educator who really understands the importance and moves forward the importance of relationships and connection through all the work she does, with a strong connection also to the importance of lineage. She was born in the Bronx, now lives in Newark, does work throughout the country, is an amazing MC. But I just want to speak to the reality that I did a webinar that Purple was a part of, and the way she talked about the reality of what hip hop is for and by young people, and what it means for that lineage to be carried on, but also owned by each generation in its own unique way, kind of blew my mind. Also, as a woman in hip hop, made me appreciate her in a way that I will forever. And so it was my pleasure to try to invite her to be a part of this, and then learn a bit more about how she has come to where she is and who's helped support that.
Thank you, Yorel. Thank you. What's up, man?
Hey, I'm good. Getting ready to come to Newark for the show.
That's right. Boogie, Miss Hill.
Well, the other thing we do on Arts Educators Save the World is when we invite an artist, we invite them to bring a mentor of theirs onto the show to talk about arts education. And we invite that artist to introduce their mentor to our community. So I'm going to pass the mic to Purple and ask her to introduce the artist that she's brought with her to share in community with us today.
Okay, so this is the GOAT, as many people say, when I say who is been one of my consistent teachers, guides, demonstrations, examples, sisters, peers, the first ambassador for the United States, author, MC, poet, facilitator, educator, public speaker, international, lover, guide, lover of hip hop, cultural representative, advocate, voice, utilized with intention, representing the divine, feminine, women and girls, rocking the mic in our authenticity, the creator, founder of I Rhyme Like a Girl collective podcast, meditation, affirmation, guru, guide. Only I can introduce Toni this way, so I'm taking advantage. Ladies, gentlemen, beings, everyone, universe, Toni Blackman.
Yeah.
Yay. What an introduction.
Since we live and direct.
I would love to kick us off by having you share with us and share with each other your first memory that you have of working together. It's okay if it's not the same memory. Actually, sometimes it's delightful if it isn't the same memory. I've found that that's just a really good way to get our conversation flowing. So, what is your first memory of working with each other?
Yes, Toni, with respect, would you like to answer first or you prefer I go first?
Go first.
All right. So the first time I remember working with Toni Blackman is when I attended a Rhyme Like a Girl workshop. I learned about Toni's workshops in a very divine way. My brother is a conductor for New Jersey Transit. While Toni was commuting and he was collecting tickets, he met this strikingly brilliant and beautiful woman that he came home and told me about. And he said, wow, she does this thing I think you should do. And she wrote this book, and we purchased her books that day. And I just kept searching for her workshop because I was over the age of the workshops I found. They were like for 14-year-olds, for teens. And so one day I saw a workshop that was open. And so that's the first time I worked with Toni. So literally, when I say a student of Toni Blackman, I was not a freestyle artist. I did not freestyle. And it was by attending Toni Blackman's workshops, freestyle workshops, is where I learned how to freestyle. So that's where, when you say work, like that's the work, right? So the work to receive, the work to be guided, the humility to be an adult taught and led by a sister, though close in age, very different in dimension. And so I had so much to learn. And that's the first time I worked with Toni. And then some years later, Toni invited myself and others in the collective to come and co-facilitate a workshop. I think it may have been at the Black Girls Rock at City Museum. Okay. But I'm also wondering if it was at the New School.
Yeah. I think that's where I'm stuck because we've done so much over the years. It kind of all blends in together. I just remember Purple being in a group of women MCs, women who rap, and being very happy to be there. I remember her smiling, and I remember her rapping. And because she has a distinct voice and a distinct flow, it's very smooth. It's almost like listening to her rap is almost like listening to jazz. That was the first time I remember. I was facilitating a cipher, and that's what image sticks in my head.
So Purple, did you say you didn't freestyle before you met Toni?
No, my two influences for freestyling is the Notorious B.I.G., who's my favorite MC. And when I learned he didn't freestyle, I was like, wait, maybe I can do this. And then Toni Blackman had a workshop. It was like, wait a minute, I could keep rapping and I could learn to freestyle. And if I sign up to learn, I'm trying to learn. Like I'm leaning all the way in. And I like Toni's style of coaching and guidance and teaching. It was really similar to the way I was raised. So I was receptive to that and her standard, the excellence. And I got it. I got it in such a way, again, the invitation to partner and giving it, right? What I learned is, you got something when you can teach it. To then craft that, right? To learn how do you teach others how to freestyle. Toni, to my knowledge, was the only person that had a curriculum on freestyling. So if you learn from, each one teach one and pay it forward.
Don't worry, that's coming.
Yeah, so I ain't freestyle. Yorel was like, you gonna ask him to freestyle. You gonna ask him to freestyle, right, Erica?
Yeah, we get there. We get there. For folks listening who are less familiar with rap as an art form, I think it would be really useful to talk through
a few terminologies,
the different aspects of rhyme construction, freestyle. When you think about teaching, in your case, working with young women, but teaching young people about hip hop as an art form, rap specifically, and then the different aspects of rap, how do you talk about that?
Well, I mean, we start with basic definitions. A lot of times people assume because people are rap fans that they understand rap. We assume because someone wears a hip hop t-shirt that they understand hip hop. And there are a lot of people who walk around unable to define any of what they enjoy. And so we start with the foundation of definitions. What is a cipher? A cipher represents 360 degrees. It's about completion of thought, energy, and information. It's about connection. It is about the circle. It is about unity. It is about you and I listening to one another. The cipher is not a showcase. It is not a performance. It is a point of connection. In hip hop music and culture, MCs are people who rap. So if you're a part of hip hop, you don't necessarily call yourself a rapper unless you're talking to people who you don't think have any idea about hip hop. We even have an artist in our collective that she has a song called I Ain't No Rapper because she wants to make it very clear she's a true MC. And an MC is a poet. An MC is a master of the craft and what it is that they do. And freestyling is rap that's done in a spontaneous moment. It is improvisation. It is in the spirit of jazz where musicians improvise. And so the foundation of the work that I've done is similar to jazz in that you need to understand how to do the thing before you break the rules in doing the thing. And that just like the great jazz musicians, constraints allow for better improvisation. It's like you give an artist a blank canvas, a bunch of kids in a room or a bunch of college students, you say, draw. Hey, 30 minutes later, there's nothing on the paper for most of the people. But if you say, draw an apple, people have direction and know where to go. And it's the same thing applies to freestyling. And you can teach freestyling if you know the techniques to do so. It's all technique.
So talk, Purple, a little bit about how Toni applies those techniques in her instruction and some big takeaways that you've garnered from that and how you apply those techniques in your own work.
Well, yes, as Toni says, starting out with the foundation, that's grounding in the intention, definition, and then the utilization of voice or the experience of voice, understanding how voice works. Also, the connection to why. When I use the word authenticity, that's a part of hip hop. You be yourself, you come as you are. It's almost like Toni can sniff out an authenticity in the circle. And so she calls in for you to go beyond the pretense. That's where your freedom is. This is that knowledge of self element of hip hop, right? So that's a part of a technique, right? Interacting with the awareness of being yourself or not, consciously choosing or not, and voice. And then vocabulary, structure, listening. Freestyle is also a deep being present and connected, allowing, trusting the words and the vocabulary, and then staying on rhythm, right? Also topic. So utilizing existing skills that are not intentionally utilized is being utilized when freestyling. So these are some of the techniques that are taught. So the epic activity alphabeticals.
Yeah.
The voice warm-ups for an MC. Picking a beat. I think that was one of the lessons that stuck with me as a woman. There's womb work as a collective member of Rhyme Like a Girl. So taking care of your body and your temple. Toni, a big reminder of drinking water. Great guidance by Dr. Gaunt, Kara Gaunt, and different invitations, literally taking us to the great trainers and scholars to learn, to have voice lessons, to understand how to utilize our voice. But also as women, what I was saying, I was veering off a little bit to say, how does that get formed? That's a thought, that's a practice, and then that's elevated when you're invested in, right? Investing in young people is what I'm getting at.
Yeah.
By their worthiness of working with someone who works with your Grammy Award winners, who are your large centered voices in conversation. So you're not known to this group that she is a part of. And so it's not a network, it's a community and it's a collective.
Yeah.
And so who you have to be to receive that and respect your own craft and gift is very much a part of the technique, right? And so that's like in the industry that may look like A&R work to people, right? And in education that might look like, or any executive leadership coaching or peer-to-peer admin and teacher coaching and training, the succession planning, the sustainability of a woman's power and voice. And so that all to say, choosing a beat as a woman, how you use your voice to not emulate men. I will never forget that lesson that I learned as a collective member. And that was a way to honor myself and discover myself deeper and go beyond layers. And so choosing a beat and not having to bravado in a way that's more masculine, or learning that the masculine identity I was using to protect my femininity and that I didn't need to. And that was a disconnect in authenticity. So this is that knowledge of self kind of teaching that I think is distinct for culture. This is education connected to culture, because the art of educating one to practice art or about the art and education is rooted in culture.
Right.
It therefore has a deeper connection to self, to an affirmation, a healing, and therefore a power.
Right.
So when we say just the intention of emceeing, taking on the responsibility with the mic, now you have a matching of this power, this discovery, this responsibility, this embracing and curiosity of elevating that way. So you're demonstrating it, and there's a wondering why, right? So you can let the words come through and be free and free your style.
Right. Exactly. And one of the things that's missing in mainstream pop rap are these elements. The understanding that she so eloquently just broke down. It's why we see hip hop suffering. The music is suffering on a mainstream level. The quality is very, very low. And the diversity and the range of the creativity, and it's not just because of that's what's selling, but that's what people are pushing. The artist could be able to do what's selling and also be great at the same time, but they choose not to be. Then the onus still comes back on us in terms of accountability. And how do we encourage the next generation? By educating them of the holistic approach to being an artist. It's not just about rap. You are a creative. And in this world, creatives, us artists, we move differently than others. And we have to honor and respect that and protect it.
Thank you for that. So I have a quick question that is related to that point. Our gathering here today is focused on thinking about artistic practices in classrooms and social emotional learning and the way we center identity, agency, and belonging as intentional, sustained, embedded pieces of our work and the building of these communities that we have to learn with and through and alongside students. I'm just wondering, I got my son is 13 and my daughter is 15, and I hear what they listen to and I make a point, and I know intimately the reality that what students are playing and listening to, or young people, is what they're given, right? If there was something else out there, they'd be listening to it if it was easily accessible. So the first question really is, how are you taking that reality and making, through your teaching and work with young people, these ideas through hip hop to help folks find empowerment, identity, agency, and what are a few of the sort of strategies and ways that hip hop is lending itself to that work specifically?
First, I have always believed if you are passionate about what you are passionate about and you stand in your truth in what you are passionate about, young people respond to your truth. So I don't care if they're listening to sexy, lil this, or, young blank, blank, blank. They still will respond to your truth. And you could be teaching Shakespeare, who they don't care about. They don't even like Shakespeare stuff. But if you present it as your truth, they're going to receive it. And so sometimes the challenge is, because hip hop is popular culture, educators are ashamed to approach it the same way they would approach a John Coltrane tune. No, I approach this the same seriousness I take Langston Hughes or Walt Whitman. I take Black Thought or Pharaoh Monch. And I love the elements of it that I love. It's in my gut and in my soul. Some say it's my ministry. It resonates inside and out of me. And I'm unapologetic about excellence. That's the other thing. There's no preaching necessary when you are speaking your truth. I don't want you to be whack. I don't want you to be average, and I don't want you to be mediocre, because a mediocre life sucks. So here's what we're going to do. I rarely ever get pushback because I bring my fire and my truth and my authenticity to the table. I listen to what they're doing, and sometimes all you got to get them to do is write out the lyrics of the crap. They read it on paper. You don't have to say anything. Students are not dumb. They read it on paper and it's like, we'll try it. And they'll give you a try. I remember there was an era of Master P. Everybody was doing it. And he was doing these raps. Now, I listen to the No Limit Soldiers, love the music. However, in the classroom, come on, y'all, are you serious? This is what you want to write that? And I put it on the big screen. I said, can someone read this for me? Nobody wanted to read it. No one. And then someone read it and they fell on the floor, cracking up. And then somebody said, I can rap better than that. Little 12-year-olds. And so there's a space. It's just being patient. And guess what? If they slip and cuss, it's because they cuss all day.
Absolutely.
They're not trying to disrespect you. If they cuss, sometimes it's because they have limited vocabulary. So my way around it, I wrote a short essay on use of the MF word and that it was a pause word, just like the B word, the itch sound, and the it sound. It's easy. It's lazy. So if you want to be great, just like LeBron, how many free throws? It used to be Kobe. How many free throws is Kobe doing? You want to be Kobe, right? And then we would build around that. There are so many ways to approach this, and we get stuck in the whackness of this horrible crap rap that's on TV and the radio. Who cares about what those people are doing? At the end of the day, the students want to be seen. If we see them and we hear them, they will stretch. And sometimes that means figuring out, okay, I need to have more guidelines here. I need to put more constraints on the creative process. Not judge, not diss what they're listening to, give them constraints for their creativity so that they can be great. And that might mean taking a little more time to make sure they can do it on beat. Because those sometimes kids who think they can rap, they can't rap either. So you have to teach them the basics and the foundation. And then that you give them technique. Give the people technique. And the people will give you confidence.
Fundamentals.
Yeah, the fundamentals.
Yeah, do it. It's a live show, y'all.
Look at the crowd.
My experience with improv is as an actor and a comedian.
Yes.
But the same structures apply, right? When you're teaching people comedy improv.
Yeah.
It is also the case that the impression is anything goes. Improv means you're making it up as you go. But actually, right, there are rules and there are structures. But to teach those rules and structures, I have found that you have to scaffold folks into that risk-taking process, right? So it's about risk-taking. And I kind of heard you mention that when you were talking about the identity work. It's about risk-taking, but instructionally, pedagogically, it's about scaffolding people to get to a place of risk-taking. And I'm wondering, for both of you, what are some of those scaffolds that you build? How do you scaffold young people into being willing to take those kinds of risks in their art making?
On day one, I really do honor my excitement, as Toni talked about, the passion and the love I have for hip hop, demonstrating permission to love and be how I am. So my physical response, the inflection in my voice when I'm telling the story, that starts out in the space. And then there's an invitation. I think hip hop itself, the story is inspiring. So that right there starts to open up the space. Then I do work around hip hop naming so that students are starting to do some sharing what they know about themselves and what they want us to know. I think that's really important. So that relationship building, so that establishing relationship and trust very early, but also in naming for self-identification and choices around how self wants to be seen and what is accepted and not accepted through community agreements and agreements on how we're going to be and how we're not going to be, or how we're going to be when there's a breakdown, how we're going to reset. So these are some of the background scaffold and doing it in a cultural way. And then gaming. I find gaming an activity. I find making sure the voice is invited, used, and a variety of ways each session. That being, saying the hip hop name, some go around in the beginning, some go around at the end, whatever is written, having options, right? So if you don't want to share, you can pass and come back to you. That is still choice. Like the words you're choosing on the paper, like the voice and the way you're choosing your tone and your volume. If you don't want to share today, would you like a neighbor or someone else to utilize their voice to contribute what you have. And so these options, I find, constantly has the voice being engaged, large poster and signs, recording and playback. And so that variety has people access and enter many ways, and then get to the point where, let's say, class 4 or 5, those go rounds, completing the sentence, completing add-on words, rhyming games. Now we're already doing it in the background. And so we're building, I scaffold that way, also with sounds and gibberish. Sometimes take the words away and do sounds. So there's a mocking or a mimicking that starts to get people with demonstrating in front. They can bring the body and feel it out with sounds and gibberish before you do the words, and then you start to lay the words. And that's the way I write a song. One of my favorite songwriters is Babyface, and I learned he wrote a song like that, and I got confident when I was a teenager. And so we kind of go to with the key, so that last line is there. So then it becomes fill in the blank. And so I invite students, I share my process as well, and invite students to either share their process or utilize my process to come up with words and fill in the blank. And then so as you do that, you build the confidence, or you find the fun, the play, you connect to the freedom or the courage or the bold, something in the experience one connects to on their own. And it has them keep having desire and true inspiration. I think that's the best way when it's self-selected.
Yeah. And I use in the teaching of freestyling, there's a reason we start out with introductions. I have a signature cipher workshop. We start with introductions every time, no matter if everyone knows each other or not. And this keeps the cliquishness away if a new person enters, but it also keeps people mindful of growth. You are not who you are today, who you were last week or the last time I saw you. So it creates this idea that we're all going to grow, and growth is expected because we're going to change every week, every day. We're growing, we're changing. So we do the introductions. And what happens over time is people become more comfortable talking about themselves, sharing about themselves, creating in the moment about themselves. And then that then translates to your life. You now have more ease introducing yourself to people. If you're a stage performer, you can walk on and introduce yourself in a creative way. We do an alliteration exercise, and that alliteration exercise some days feels painful and embarrassing. It's humbling. And it's like conditioning, running laps, doing push-ups, doing crunches. We do it every single time. Sometimes we get through the whole alphabet. Sometimes we don't. I do it now in one-on-one coaching. I used to only do it in groups, but it is conditioning. It's very, very important. Over time, it becomes easier. Not that you have more words to say. The ease comes from you're less embarrassed by not having words to say. That's part of the process. Growing to the point where you are no longer feeling humiliation because you made a mistake. Growing to the point where your mistake becomes material. Growing to the point where you realize it's very human to run out of things to say. And there's nothing wrong with me. Yeah.
I love the emotional component of what you just said, because as you were talking, I was thinking my favorite rule of improv is turning mistakes into opportunities.
Yeah.
But the addendum that I heard you add is, and not having shame associated with that.
Yeah.
And the emotional aspect of being willing to make a mistake, not just that, because every mistake is an opportunity, but also because there's a feeling of that. I love that.
Yeah. And it's important what Toni's hitting at, because when it comes to learning and when it comes to creating, the space that one's brain is in or in response or reacting to, if ashamed or not, right? What is available in creating and what is happening with the brain with receiving information or processing information in the learning process. And so because this is an arts integration conference, this reminds me of the pairing of art, be it hip hop art, jazz, in your core curriculum, because of how it complements and supports openness and learning. And so we see results fast. And often, Toni, I can imagine you hear the same thing from traditional education or institutions, that people go to do things they don't usually do or faster than normal in the workshops. And I think it's the space.
Yeah. Yeah, I've done a lot of this work with teachers and educators. My first formally paid hip hop education outside of my teen years when I started doing it was with teachers, with Teaching for Change in Washington, D.C., the organization that Deborah Minkart started. And I was working with D.C. public school teachers, Maryland County school teachers. That's where I discovered, I'm like, oh, this applies to everybody. And adults from ages 28 to 82 get the same thing out of it as an 18-year-old.
My name is Graham Isidore. I have a progressive eye disease called keratoconus. Admitting I'm losing my vision has been hard, but explaining it to other people has been harder. Lately, I've been trying to talk about it. Short-sighted is an attempt to explain what vision loss feels like by exploring how it sounds. By sharing my story, we get into all the things you don't see about hidden disabilities. Short-sighted from CBC's Personally, available now.
Well, audience, I'm going to invite you to start thinking of any questions that you might have for our guests. I am going to ask a question, and then as you have something, if you would like to ask our guests, we have a microphone set up right here. Please come and stand by the microphone so we can have you contribute a question. And while you all are thinking and deciding to take the risk and ask a question, I would love for each of you to tell us about a project that you have right now that's really exciting you, fulfilling you, making you feel whole, that you want to share with us. And it doesn't have to be an arts education project. It can be some other project in your arts life that's giving you life right now.
Well, decluttering gives me life. But no, that's true. With the project, honestly, that I'm most both invigorating and stretching myself with is writing a hip hop autobiographical musical.
Whoa.
To own my story and honor my story. And then the stretch is in telling it. I loved Zora Neale Hurston's work in Barracoon, like absent of the white gaze, as well as in the cadence of the people. And so in the cadence of myself and absence of the considerations of family and friends and society, just talking my talk.
The considerations.
Yes. So just writing freely, writing the way I talk and look and see my own story is probably the biggest stretch for me. And that's what I'm working on. And theater has not been the place that I've, played. Though I've been encouraged to do theater since I was a child. And so, working with others to turn the stories into a script and choosing a director and really getting into what it means to produce this number in a new area. And because I did not release any music, this is it. This is how it now came together and is making sense. So I'm excited about that. And it's called Dream Music, Adventures in BME.
Love it. Yeah. Well, those who know me know I'm always doing the most and doing probably some say too much, but it flows and it's flowing right now. My book is coming out this fall, Wisdom of the Cipher, spiritual insights that I've gleaned from 20 plus years of organizing hip hop platforms. It's actually 25 plus.
Wow.
Because in February, Freestyle Union Cipher Workshop will be 30 years old. I cannot believe it. So Wisdom of the Cipher grew out of that work with Freestyle Union. Next year, I just found my memoir writing coach. So I'll be working with a coach for 6 months to finish Travels of a Lyrical Ambassador, which is written, but it's not good. So I need to work with somebody on it. And I have a podcast out right now that grew out of Run Like a Girl. It's called the Lyrical Meditation Cipher Podcast. We'll start recording season 2 next week. I'm establishing my business as an arts educator, as a professional. I was able to take everything that I've done in a school setting and do it for Disney, y'all. Arts educators on the rise, on the move. It's real. I coach the actors for Kwame Alexander's TV show, The Crossover.
Wow.
And so I worked with the lead actors, Jalen Hall and Amir O'Neill, for more than 6 months. Over the course of 2 years, it was some time, and I was on the set. And so I coached them on spoken word delivery. They freestyle well now. They spit hot fire. They love it. Musically, I have a hip hop meditation series of songs, it's hip hop soul, mindfulness music that I'm working to let go of. The perfectionism has stopped me. The music videos are done, the music is mixed and mastered. I've got a distribution platform, and this season we're letting it go. And late December, I'll be releasing a Senegalese project in Senegal. I'm working with a Senegalese spiritual singer. We're testing it out there, and then it'll be available to the rest of the world. So it's succinctly Senegalese. And right now I'm in Atlanta doing an artist residency with the Praise House Project with the group Bidoubou who is a Senegalese trio, highly respected musicians, singers, and hip hoppers. And we actually have a show tomorrow with a student from Madison, Wisconsin.
What?
I can't remember what school he goes to. His name is Sharif Mbo. He goes by the name of Knox. He just performed at Africa Fest in Madison, but he's here in Atlanta to perform his first big show with us. And I'm coaching him for the next 2 months, preparing him for a professional career as a hip hop artist. So he also makes beats, and I'm really hoping to see him do big things.
Madison, Wisconsin, that's what's up.
Stand up. Stand up.
I just want to reflect that something that I have noticed of a lot of successful artists is that when they move into spaces where they stretch themselves, oftentimes that means stretching into different art forms. So I really love hearing that, but Purple, you said, I'm not really an actor. That's not really something I've done, right? And Toni, you're working on writing, more nonfiction and fiction texts. And so I love the idea too that art making is transdisciplinary, and that part of taking risks is about embracing and bringing in all these different art forms into our work. So thank you for sharing all of those projects, and hopefully listeners everywhere can check them out. Maybe we can even do an ad swap. I'm learning all these things about podcasting. So,
I would love to.
Swap our audiences. We have a question from someone in the audience.
Yes.
John, give it up.
Hello. Thank you, artists, for your work and your sharing of your spirit and your gifts. And speaking of transdisciplinary, what suggestions, offerings might you give to educators who are interested in using hip hop or emceeing as a pedagogical tool through like science or math? I'm sure you could do lots of workshops on that, but just anything that they can begin to chew on to connect more closely with their young learners. Thank you.
Okay, so first I will mention Polaris, PolarYSS. Polaris, she's on all social media. I'm not sure if her new website is up yet, but she wrote a book called Raps and Rubik's Cubes. She is a math and science classroom teacher. She was working with fourth grade. She's from the Bronx, New York, an award-winning MC and a part of Rhyme Like a Girl Collective, our collective. But she's just a brilliant educator doing a lot of teacher training in this lane. Math and science, not necessarily my strength per se, but I know that her book she uses the Rubik's Cube to get the young people engaged and to teach critical thinking skills. And it really, really works. But Purple might have more to add here.
Yeah, that's the thing I was thinking is first the resources, the people who are doing the work with pairing math and science and hip hop. That's Dr. William Patterson. There's a TED Talk with Jizza and Science Genius, looking at some of the work and the research done. Even there at Madison, University of Wisconsin has been digging hip hop for a long time. So that's one thing. The other thing when it comes to how to pair is when we say hip hop, we have different hip hop elements. So there's emceeing, there's graffiti, there's beat making, there's beatboxing, there's DJing, and there's dance. We operate from pairing elements. It's best to not separate or always work with. And so some of these elements lend itself to pairing. You can pair several, both, or one of those to further explain a theme or break it down, like kind of what pairs. I think it's a gentleman in Miami. There's a school around hip hop and gaming. Pitbull, the rap artist Pitbull. has, some work being done. That's what I would say is look at who's doing that work and what specific pedagogy is already out.
You all can't see the audience, but as soon as you started talking about specific resources, the sounds and images of people writing things down was all the sensory that I was taking in. Everybody got out their phones and their
Yes,
notebooks.
I gotta quote a lyric from LL Cool J. Just keep on searching. Gotta keep on searching. Once you go into this hip hop tunnel, this portal, dance and play and find out, those who view this, what else did they view and what other names are in the conversation, and look at maybe doing something like Toni said, teacher trainings.
Yeah. But she, like Polaris had a rap. I can't remember the rap, but there was a rap that she did. Rhyme Like a Girl did a tour in March. We went to Cameroon, Botswana, and Equatorial Guinea, and she did teacher trainings in 2 of the countries. And there was a rap that she had the teachers learn that she uses with her students to learn certain math concepts. And so there are things like that that really work. And it's just simple things, simple rhymes, and they buy in all of the way. And they start to begin to teach themselves and to remind each other.
Yeah. And the concepts, have them write raps about the concepts. That recently our integration project that I was invited to do with the school was to teach like persuasive argument techniques. And another one was on Greek mythology. The rap piece, you could actually write the rap. There's a group in the 80s that helped me pass or get a bonus point on a test because I had to know 8 countries in Africa. And it's the group Stetsasonic. So they wrote a song, AFRICA, Angola, Soweto, Zimbabwe, Tanzania, Zambia, Mozambique, and Botswana. So let us speak about the motherland. So when it came to taking the test, I just said the rap. And so, you have students writing the raps now that encompass the actual content.
And it could be an easy graffiti lesson. We're getting creative right now, but as teachers, but it could become an easy graffiti lesson where everybody's given a sketch pad and markers or crayons to create a graffiti piece around a math problem. There's so many ways like to get them engaged and excited and interested in that way.
Yeah, a lot of us learned in rhyme. Do you remember the old rhymes? We did learn in rhyme. Several techniques, right? Or acronyms,
Yeah.
I think we have another question.
Hi, Purple, I heard you use the word divine and divine feminine. And Toni, I heard you talk about musical meditations. And I'm mostly asking as a songwriter, are there any spiritual practices you use regularly before writing or to enable your own creations?
Yes, I'm a meditator. I have a number of spiritual practices, metaphysics, different practices around affirmation. But I like to elevate my vibration. For me, that also includes a certain type of tea, my connection to a nature source. Meditation kind of helps me set and ground. That's something. Also, I like music to dance to. That helps my vibration elevate too. So those are some of the things, tree hugging and feet in grass.
Yeah. Yeah. And I've been dealing with anxiety since 2018. My brother suffered from suicide and I took care of everybody but me. 6 months later, I just had debilitating anxiety for like 2 months I suffered. And then it came back during the pandemic. I had to find other things that I could really call upon. And so breath work is one of the few things that gets me centered and grounded. Also, singing out loud. There's something about the voice and singing. If I sing for an hour or doing vocal warm-ups and singing songs, I feel better. Sometimes I rap. I do a whole concert for myself. I tap all the way into my inner child. I put on music that makes me feel good. I'll freestyle. Believe it or not, sometimes I get nervous reading poetry out of a book, a poem I don't know. I'll freestyle in front of 20,000 people, but I get nervous having to do something set. And the way that I calm my nerves is through freestyling. And so freestyling has become a spiritual practice for me. If I go too long without being in a cipher or being at a jam session, I'm off. So creation is my medicine and I no longer neglect it at all. Taking long walks, mindfulness walks, playing South African house music is really, really important for my soul. Tuning into good memory music. I use candlelight. I'm light sensitive. I'm not weird. I'm just light sensitive. If there's too many lights on in the room, I leave in the evening. I even cover lampshades when I'm traveling in hotel shows. I have light fabric. I cover all the lamps because I need ambiance in order to sustain myself. And my brother used to always joke. And when we lived together in New York City, he'd come in ambiance, just ambiance everywhere, ambiance. And so him and my nephew had so many jokes, but I needed it. And I now embrace what I need. Sometimes I need warm things to drink and warm things to eat. And then sometimes I need to fast. If my brain says fast and I don't, something bad always happens. So being obedient to what my spirit and my body are calling for, first and foremost, meditation and prayer. And I have to talk to myself. I had a healer, a counselor, and a psychologist all tell me, judge me, because I'm the queen of listening to positive content on YouTube, because my mind is dangerous by itself sometimes. So I've just accepted. I don't tell everybody, but I'm listening. I know every motivational speaker. I know all the metaphysical teachers. I know the spiritualists. I know the holistic people. And it might be too much for you, but Toni's brain is happy when it gets fed.
Yeah, Toni is telling the truth, y'all. Toni put me D and expanded my path with these things. I'm talking about spiritual healing circles that led to 10 days, silent meditation retreats. And I mean, everything from skydiving, like what has me be more in my body and embrace it.
Yes.
And that's where the allowance comes in. And I think that's super dope. Thank you again, T, for all of that. You know, I've been writing gratitude lists. And it gets me there. The gratitude lists are real.
Gratitude lists and cleansing letters. Yes, that you don't always have to send.
And drink water. Toni will remind you to drink your water.
And prioritize going where you need to go, whether it's locally in your state or to another region. For me, it's always another country. I got to get out of here. And so November 12th, I got my ticket. I'm out.
I got to add forest bathing, Toni. Now I'm doing the forest bathing, but I got to thank you for all of this goodness. I'll be doing goddess baths. I mean, my family would be like, what is all of this? And I'm like, y'all, I am thriving as an empath. And this is why when we, can be present and do our thing, like I'm really more of me, right? And it don't stop.
I think it's important.
It don't stop.
It's important for educators, particularly arts educators. It is imperative that we take care of our mind, body, and soul. Because when we teach, we are healing. When we teach, we are lifting up. When we teach, we are transforming lives on a different level. Because art goes there. It goes here in your heart. It goes deep. It saves lives. Every day. Every day it saves lives.
Toni, there's a Native American, I'm talking about YouTube University. Wait, get that. Give them flowers. Pick them. Sunflowers, they turn towards the light, right? They grow and embrace the light. Dr. Martin Broken Leg, the First Nations work around students. Then the term was at risk. Y'all know the education terms be changing with the funding. But anyway, the work they did, Toni, he talked about, and this is on YouTube University, teaching to the heart. Teaching to the heart. That's what you just reminded me of, Toni. These are beings. I'm a being. This is a being. We be being. You know what I mean? The oneness, right? So for me, the work I just did in grad school, I just completed my master's, and specifically in the area of consciousness, studying hip hop consciousness at Goddard. The oneness that we've been talking and teaching and practicing in hip hop. Again, these were children being this way. They weren't trying to do anything. And so there is something, when I talk about allowing, there's not a force, intention and trying, there's allowing. That concept is more woo-woo for some. So the way to break it down where it ain't woo-woo is be in the moment. And then see when we're not. And deal with what has us not be, but be okay when you're not too. Because what we're telling children, they break it down, they keep it way more simple. Right? Way more simple. So we could go faster with them. It's us. It's the authoritatives. And hip hop is non-monolithic and it's non-authoritative. And so there's a oneness. There's a oneness that I think these type of things that are in mindfulness and consciousness are in hip hop because the indigenous practices, the ancient practices, this combination of culture, this collection of old ancient pastimes and practices. And so you can watch students, in a sense, there's the counterintuitive structures of education, and then hip hop or space making, creative space making, centering learning through creativity or Montessori's play, right? This is kind of that similar type of work, but that engaging from the youth being students as well as teachers. And so if they can lead in their education practice where it's discovery and have genuine curiosity in the classroom. So that back to that beginning question about lyrics, be curious about how they hear it, how they experience it, why do they connect to it. That type of curiosity over here with us makes space for the same genuine interaction with others.
Yeah.
Y'all were rolling, so I did not want to cut
Tony
that off.
Tony been trying to teach me for 10 years that I'll be jacking the mics.
There was so much wisdom in that last exchange, but I want to make space for what we have time for one final question. So I want to invite one more question into the space.
Thank you so much. This has been amazing. I have a question. If you could build on a little bit of what you said about women as women emulating the masculine. And we live in a patriarchal system. And as personally, I am an arts instructor, an artist, a dancer. And I'm also a recovering insurance industry worker bee, cubicle person, where it was a lot of white men that I was working for, learning from, being mentored by, as a woman, as a mother of a daughter, as a teacher to girls, to boys, to beings. What did that journey look like for you in terms of unknowing and re-knowing and showing up authentically in not only your art, but your education as well?
Okay.
But I love
Okay,
that.
so
That's sweet.
it was actually a dance professor that called me out. She said, "Why are you so hard?" The late Dr. Sherelle Berriman Miller, I think her last name was Johnson, her remarriage was Dr. Johnson. She was at Howard University. She taught Catherine Dunham technique. She was a master teacher. And she is the one who asked me those questions and got me looking at my movements, my energy, my activity. And then there was a master healer in DC, Dr. Prem Deben, who I was trying to heal. I had some health issues. And one time my cycle just completely disappeared. He had me do certain things, just burning these white candles, meditating daily, fasting with these herbs and food, but then also wearing a certain color because I was in a hip hop theater production. I'm a hip hop theater pioneer. I was in it with a man and a DJ, male. Then I had my cipher, which was 40 men and me and a couple other women. And then I was in a relationship with a very masculine male who was a genius artist and around his friends. And it was just my whole life. It was so much so, I'm so sensitive that it stopped my cycle. And it came back regular when I tuned into my feminine energy. And I found a balance. I found a balance in that. That's when I started to believe, oh, this does make a difference in the cipher, in the creativity, in this work. In order to be accepted, what I find is a lot of times women are subconsciously taking on certain traits, even traits they don't like, we don't like. We take them on because we just want to be accepted. We want to be approved of. We want to be embraced. And what it does is, if you're doing that, you're no longer authentic, which hurts the quality of your art, which hurts the quality of your performance, which blocks you from getting what you say you want because you're not being you. And so we figured out in this circle, in this cipher, that in order to end up in the place you want to go, you have to be authentically you. Now, deprogramming and unlearning, that's a whole nother story. Letting go of seeking approval from the boys club for me took decades. I'm still in the space now where I have these men I'm leading who listen to me and trust me. My male partner has to remind me to lead because I have so much trauma around when I was younger and idealistic, just thinking music, art, and poetry could change the world. And I was unaware of that sexism was real. Like I was just really unaware that this was not in my way. Now that I'm clear about it, I am still to this day unlearning and knowing how to be in charge while being myself. I don't know if I answered the question because I got 5 thoughts in my head. The ADD's kicking in, but Purple, can you pick it up?
Yeah. I mean, I got a visual of Lauryn Hill's lyric of "Don't be a hard rock when you really are a gem." Literally, the emulating what men do and thinking that is what we need to do in order to succeed. There's a different way. So the tone of voice was one thing I had to learn. If rapping with men and rapping with women, I had to catch my code switch in the spaces. I had to catch my gesturing, my posturing, the hardness, the protecting. So hardening up in the physical body changes the access to the voice and the breath, right?
Mm-hmm.
Also, the approach to competitiveness, the approach to the cipher space, the dominating. These things were not my nature. And so permission to be authentic, permission to be my nature is going to allow the feminine. So I can concentrate on just being authentic and not code switching, and then the feminine is going to be there. Right? Versus trying to be feminine. Because I'm of the belief we have masculine and feminine energy, and they're not competing, right? They're complementing, or there's wholeness. So how am I doing if I took the masculine and the feminine title away and I just say, how is my energy? Is it more whole, depleted, portion up, compartmentalized? I could do it right there.
Yeah. And Rhyme Like a Girl was born out of my work with Freestyle Union when I realized one day that the women in the cypher in DC, they weren't scared to rap. They just didn't feel like bringing on the bravado today. Or they didn't feel like fighting to get on the mic. Like, it's my turn. I should be able to rap. There was this, and then they didn't want to make mistakes because then some of the young guys there would patronize them. Well-meaning. They were well-meaning, thinking they were being supportive, but what they were really doing was patting the girls on the head. And they hated it, so they just would rarely spit. And I found myself sometimes not feeling their energy. And so I started a separate event, a separate vibe session just for women, where women could build their skills, mature and ground enough to be able to feel comfortable in the general population cipher and being themselves. And those are the stories that hip hop needs.
Yes.
Those are the stories that pop music needs. Women's stories have been downplayed and limited to love songs about broken hearts, right? Or being angry or dominating men. So now you're going to do the man thing and dominate the man, and the men ain't this and the men ain't that. We have so much more to talk about. I want to talk about the gluten-free brownies I made the other day, right? I want to talk about that. I want to talk about the good things, that are happening in my relationship and from how I'm positioning myself in this life. My meditation this morning. Some women just want to rap about their womb. Now, probably only women would listen to it. But if that's what they want to do, they should be able to do it.
Yeah. And it's that space that Toni created with the cipher and Rhyme Like a Girl is the topics. It opened up seeing that a cipher with all women, there were other things that not only did I want to talk about, but I wanted to listen to other women talk about or rap and express and experience it together. And then that created a solidarity, a understanding, a self-reckoning, reflection, and embrace, a healing. And so that back in the male space, I knew what I wanted to talk about, and I did. So that also came with freestyling, right? Allowing my free speech.
Purple Norris, Toni Blackman, thank you so much for spending your lunch hour with us on a Saturday. This has been an incredible conversation. I'm so grateful to both of you. Thank you. Audience, thank you for joining us. I'm going to... Yes. Oh my goodness. This is so great. I hope you're feeling that through the screen. Yes. I'm going to take us out with a little game we like to play on Arts Educators Save the World. It's an improv game called 3 Things. I'm going to ask Yorel a question. He doesn't know what the question is yet. It's going to be improvised. And every time he gives an answer, you all are going to shout back a number. So he's going to give one answer and you all are going to shout 1. Then you're going to shout 2. And then 3 things. So Yorel, 3 titles of 3 songs that you plan to write in the future.
Oh, man. Of Love and Limits, The drum can save your life. 2. And love is the only thing.
3 things.
And Erica?
Yes, this
We
is a
wanna
totally
know
spontaneous interaction we're going to have right now.
What are 3 ways that folks can connect to your podcast or stay knowing what's going on?
Well, thanks for asking. I would love for you to like, subscribe, and rate the podcast anywhere you get your podcast. That is how people learn about the work that we do, and that is how we get the word out about the value of arts educators in the world. We have a website. Yay! https artseducatorspodcast.com. There are opportunities for you to write to us. We put extra content on there, and it is a way to become a part of our community. 2. You can send us an email, contact@artseducatorspodcast.com. That is a way for you to ask us questions, for you to suggest guests. If you have guests that you think would be great on the podcast, we would love to hear from you. And please be involved in our community. And as we say in Arts Educators Save the World, onward together.
Arts Educators Save the World is hosted by Erica Rosenfeld Halverson and produced and co-hosted by me, Alec Lev. Our executive producer is Doug Matica, and our audio producer is Justin Asher. We are also executive produced by the fantastic group at Story Pirate Studios, Lee Overtree, Benjamin Salka, and Amy Fiore. Original music is by Dan Lipton, and our artwork is by Lyra Evans. Check out our website, designed by Cole Locasio, at www.artseducatorspodcast.com. You can follow us on Twitter @ArtsEducators. Yes, somehow that wasn't taken yet. And on Instagram @ArtsEducatorsPodcast. Write to us with your questions and comments at contact@artseducatorspodcast.com. And wherever you're listening, please remember to subscribe, rate, and review. It really helps the show. We are proud to be sponsored in part by the Wallace Foundation, the University of Wisconsin-Madison, and the Gibb Faculty Fellowship. Arts Educators Save the World was created by Erica Rosenfeld